Hello everyone, good morning. Myself Pratap Telkutla. Let's discuss about most important editorials which are covered in Hindu today. The first editorial here is why an industry policy is crucial, and the author want to stress upon the importance of a manufacturing sector and its contribution of manufacturing sector to GDP, and which in turn have impacts on the employment and the employment generation, growth potential of the country, and all the connected benefits. Okay, so let's get into this article. So if we see contribution of manufacturing sector to GDP in 2017 is 16%. It is a clear stagnation since economic reforms 1991. Indian manufacturing sector has never been the leading one in the economy other than the second and fourth 5-year plans. Without concentrating on the manufacturing, India can't get into real growth. There is, to our dismay, there is no manufacturing policy yet devised in India. So, in this article, author trying to explain why a proper industrial or the manufacturing policy is required, and if there is a manufacturing policy, what exactly it should cater to, by taking the examples of the East Asian economies which whose manufacturing growth has been tremendous in the last decade or so. So a industrial policy has to coordinate complementary investments where there are significant economies of scale and capital market imperfections. There are investments, it has to be complementary in nature. So if there are any market imperfections, the policy has to fix that. The second objective of the policy should be, it should address the learning externalities such as the subsidies for industrial learning. What is this? Training the human capital as per the needs of the industrial policy. So we have an industrial policy in place. India has a huge, tremendous human capital who are ready to get into the jobs, who are ready to get into the organized sectors. If our academic institutions or the IT institutions are ready to, ITI institutions are ready to provide the necessary skills which are in align with the industrial policy. The East Asian countries, why they are not able to receive the foreign investments, whereas India were getting the investment? The only reason is this: we have a human capital, so that's the reason we are getting so much of foreign investments, whereas East Asian economies are not getting it. Slowly the situation of East Asian countries also improving on the trend. And the third important objective of the policy should be, state has to play a role of an organizer of the domestic firms into a cartel such that they have some negotiating powers with the foreign firms or the foreign governments. The best classic example in this case is China. Since 1990 supported their own domestic companies like Lenovo computers, Haier appliances, and mega firms. So these are these over the last three decades, these companies' growth is tremendous, which in turn has a impact on the growth of the Chinese economy. So the state has to play the role of the organizing the domestic firms into a strong cartel, which have the negotiating power to do with the foreign governments or the foreign firms. Industrial policy should not only prevent the coordination failures if there are any, but also it should ensure that there should not be competing investment in a capital scale environment. What is this? I'll tell you with a classic examples which has happened in India. These are the two sectors which are affected most because of the heavy competition: aviation sector and the telecom sector. So aviation sector, so many foreign players or domestic players get onto it, and they spend their investments, and because of the pressure, peer pressure or the company's pressure, their revenues have taken a beating. That's a reason companies like Jet Airways and Kingfisher has bankrupted, has to down their airways completely, right? Telecom sector is another example where so many players involved, which results in a competition and the scarce of the resource. This is a scarce environment, right? Resource scarce environment. Telecom spectrum is very scarce. It has to be competitive with the different companies, and their profits will get a beating. So these two sectors affected most. Instead of putting or channelizing our investment into a single sectors like capital scarce, these investments can be channelized to some other sectors where there is a real potential for the growth. So industrial policy has to ensure that. And the other important objective of industrial policy should ensure that installed capacity is as close to the minimum efficient scale as possible. What is this? Let's say my installed capacity is 1000 crores. That means my manufacturing unit can produce up to 1000 crores of goods. So this is my minimum efficient scale. It can be more than that also. So if I can produce a goods up to 1000 crores, there would be break even in my investment. I would be free from any losses. I can ensure that my growth is there, so I can concentrate on that. When we have that restriction of not manufacturing up to our own potential, then there is a clearly problem. So there is an industrial policy since 1956 in India. we are we there are some small scale and cottage industries for which we have assigned some of the products. We reserve that products to be manufactured or produced by small scale and cottage industries only. As a result of it, this investment is very small. The cottage manufacturing is very small. So many companies, they're not able to get onto the real manufacturing growth. So the incentive to remain small, understand this very clearly. The incentive to remain small, which is given by Government of India through various industrial policies, has casted dearly to India. So these small and medium scale industries, they're there like that only. There is no real growth in that industry size or scale of it. So the industrial policy must ensure that the installed capacity is as close to as minimum efficient scale as possible. And the other and final important objective is, when structural changes are required, industrial policy shall facilitate that process. What is structural change? See, in fast changing economies, some of the industries will give preference now, and over a period of time, that industries will take the beating, will be in the backstage. So industrial policy should facilitate the process of the change in the economy. So the major blockades of this particular process is the already existed companies which have some losses because of the structural change. So a policy has to ensure that should comfort the existing companies, and should ensure about their losses, and should ensure that they are not going to lose much. Then they can move ahead with the structural change. East Asian countries manage this condition very properly. This is a good example. Finally, potential role of industrial policy is downplayed in India, Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa. The success stories of East Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand, where their manufacturing potential has improved a lot over a period of time, can take an example to it. Unless the manufacturing sector is improved, growth is improved, we can't really get into a growth phase. Service sector and agriculture sectors, though there are growths but not much, which can satisfy the needs of the growing economy, growing people, growing population. So definitely in a policy, the state role is very much required and very much important. The state has to play proactive role to tweak here and there the changes required at at right places at right points. Indian IT sector is an example where state's effective role has enabled the IT's growth. This is all about this article. I am moving ahead to the next article. Is the future of Indian democracy secure? So here the author trying to express the worry about the Indian democracy and the existing anomalies there. The liberals in India worries about three things. The first and foremost point is concerns on the autonomous bodies functioning like Election Commission of India, Supreme Court and CBI, where their function is come under the cloud. There are serious allegations that they are favoring the ruling establishment. Ideally, these institutes are constitutional bodies and autonomous. They has to be acted neutrally. The second is rise of Hindutva politics, which in turn have an impact on the idea of India as a plural and inclusive society. So, a particular section of society is giving importance to the Hindutva politics, so that is getting the importance, whereas the plural and inclusiveness of society is getting lost. Rise of the authoritarian tendencies and the tendency to anoint popular leader who is getting more popularism. Popular leader example is Indira Gandhi earlier case. Now Modi is a popular leader, is getting majority of the people's votes right now in India. However, voters are not worried about these kind of tendencies and apprehensions by the liberals or the intellectuals. Their concerned areas are the jobs and livelihood, caste and communal considerations, demonstration of India's strength against Pakistan. With these tendencies, procedural democracy, where the periodic elections may occur, but the true democratic spirit, which is in danger. Democratic spirit is the one which gives an advantage to the plural or inclusiveness of society, and it gives equal opportunities to all and everyone, not a particular section of society getting advantage because of it. That's what the true meaning of the democracy, right? So this is what the author is trying to express here. Let's move it to the other articles which are covered today. There is another nice article on the coalition rule and coalition government in India. Coalition governments. What is this coalition government? When not a single party is getting majority to form the government, they'll seek the help from some other parties, be it other national party, be it some regional parties. With this, they form as a coalitions and form a government and rule the India. So the examples of coalition governments are, there is NDA and there is UPA. UPA led by Congress, NDA led by BJP. So there are very good points which are covered in this article, which I am trying to give it over here. Coalition governments. What is this coalition government brings exactly to the table? This coalition government brings plurality and difference of views across the board, which is very important for a central government ruling. The present BJP-led government is a surplus coalition. What is a surplus coalition? Though it is a coalition, a mix of all the parties, but a single party, if it want, it itself can form the government. That is BJP. So it's a surplus coalition where the coalition partners will not get much of the space to voice their opinions. Other important point is, in coalition governments, decisions were taken under pressure and in most required cases. Things like LPG reforms, liberation, privatization, globalization reforms, which were taken in 1991, and we can avoid the radical decisions like the demonetizations through the coalition governments. And the coalition governments are not formed based on the ideological coherence. This is most important. We tend to misunderstand a coalition government is coming into the picture because there was some ideological coherence. It's not true. What is ideological coherence between Congress and the left government, which has supported for UPA from outside during 2007 ruling? There is no ideological coherence, right? So definitely the coalition governments are not formed based on the ideological coherence, but based on the convenience, the number of seats each party is getting, and what is the required majority to form the government. Based on it, we are forming the government. The redistribution of funds, how this happens in a coalition government compared to the single party government. Single party government, they'll try to provide the funds as per the needs, as per the established ruling establishments. Whereas the coalition governments, we tend to see that some of the states get more benefits than the other states. The states from which there is a coalition partner existed at the center, they tend to get more funds. For example, DMK during the UPA regime, they got many of the funds in terms of the road development and food infrastructure. Many state roads in Chennai are now the national projects, national roads. They're converted into state roads into national highways. So we mean to say redistribution of funds is not really uniform. It is tilted in favor of one party or the other, one state or the other, which is not exactly the ideal case. This is all about the important points covered in this article. I'm moving ahead. Encourage citizen science. This is very nice and small article. There are few points which we need to take down. What is this citizen science? So science is there to develop new ideas and develop new discoveries. But on what basis they're developing these ideas? They have the scientific institutions, they have the intelligent people like academia, intelligentsia academia, who's coming from education background. Based on that education background, they will tend to innovate something, and they will tend to find a new things, which is a uniform one way of doing things, which is not collaborate with the existing societies. So with this citizen science concept, what happens is institutes has to collaborate. They must collaborate with the external community, because the external community possesses some knowledge with them. This knowledge is very important to find new discoveries, to find the problems for the existed problems in the society. This knowledge is very required to follow. So a perfect fine collaboration between the academic institutions and the external community is required to come up to a very good innovations. Examples, there are very good example. India Earthwatch Institute, which is operating from Bangalore, is implementing citizen science projects. Their volunteers are involved in the collection of data on the pollinators and the studies related to the lake conservation. So definitely new models are needed to supplement the traditional scientific methods which are existed. As the science itself is evolving, the methods by which we want to do innovations has to evolve. It has to take the cooperation from the existed community as well. This is all for today. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow.